Hey everyone, welcome back. This is a build I originally made about 3.5 months ago, around the time when the companion rework came out. There have actually been quite a few cool additions since then that made this setup much more viable and worth showing now. Yes, this is an Archgun DPS loadout for general play focusing on Frost, the star of the show. While not exactly top class in the current post-melee influence era, we can still comfortably reach 120 kpm and go higher on the setup, which is pretty respectable for an Archgun, don't you think? And you get all of that crunchy sounding goodness of the weapons too. Why is this impressive for Archguns? They're in a pretty bad spot, not having access to weapon arcanes, ignoring the effects of most weapon buffing Warframe arcanes, ignoring many Warframe buffing abilities, lacking good mods besides just good elementals, and just all around locking you out of your guns, as well as a lengthy deployment animation and cooldown penalty if you holster it with ammo missing. Not the greatest look for arguably the weakest weapon archetype in your loadout, right? But with recent slight Archgun buffs, today aims to rectify that enough for comfort and performance. Let's take a closer look. First and foremost are the Archgun interaction mechanics. Now, they completely ignore all elemental ability buffs. This means Nourish, Shock Trooper, Venom Dose, Smite Infusion, etc. do absolutely nothing to them. It does not grant them the corresponding elemental damage nor status types. On the other hand, they are affected by Roar, Eclipse, Vex Armor, and a couple of other general buff abilities. This lack of elemental buffing is an issue that we will solve later. Perhaps the greatest limitation of Archguns are their limited ammo. Nothing in a mission drops ammo types capable of restoring Archgun ammo. This means at some point, you will run out and have to put up with a maximum 5-minute deployment cooldown before you can use Archguns again. There are only two ways around this. Lavos' third ability, which turns ammo into universal ammo, working on Archguns, and Subsuming Dispensary, which also drops universal ammo that works on Archguns. For the purposes of today's setup, Lavos is significantly weaker than Frost, so we will be locking in our Subsume slot with Dispensary. And no, ammo pads do not work on Archguns. The other reason why I picked Frost is his unique augment Biting Frost. This is a global modifier that increases crit chance and crit damage against frozen enemies. Honestly, some variant of this should be his passive. Rather than being a buff, it is a debuff, meaning it does not care where the damage comes from. Think of it like an aura mod, except it only applies against frozen enemies. Our main way of freezing is going to be Avalanche, which is perfect because it will serve as our shield gate, Overguard, crowd control, armor strip, and biting frost enabler. One button to do everything we need on the build. Avalanche has also been updated to armor strip even from enemies that cannot be frozen, such as acolytes. Perhaps this highlights Frost 1 and 2 needing updates and consolidated into a single improved ability to give them a new one, like Zephyr and Vauban did. 3 is situational, but is not needed on today's build. The last thing to note is that since introduction of Archguns, we have always been able to use our melee with them, until some point about 2 years ago. It was randomly removed as an undocumented change, and this long-standing issue has prevented us from using melees for no good reason or fix. The good news is we have a temporary fix. Using any two-handed upper body cast animation restores the original melee functionality when you melee out of operator with Archguns active. While not necessary, this allows bonus additions to the loadout when we discuss later. Dispensary is considered a two-handed upper body cast animation, and there are many other abilities in the game that can fix this problem. Okay, let's look at the Frost build. I would strongly recommend bringing 2 casting speed shards because the Avalanche cast animation is just oh so slow. Otherwise, you don't need anything else. Today's build uses a combat discipline and Arcane Avenger setup for both Larkspur Prime and Fluctus loadouts. This is to boost their crit high enough to 100% and fully benefiting from crit damage scaling. This build achieves many things at once. Double gate via shield gate in one cast and Overguard. This is important because shield is restored by 3 augers, 2 being on a pistol at the start of cast, but the Overguard is not granted until end of cast when enemies are already frozen. This means your shield gate will last the duration of cast even if it breaks, granting Overguard afterwards for another 0.5 seconds gate if it breaks, which shouldn't really matter because we already froze everything within 33 meters. I see Avalanche does not need to be leveled, as its only purpose is to grant Overguard gate, not actual Overguard scaling. We also do not need Rolling Guard, because Overguard grants complete status immunity, and we already cast every few seconds. We force proc Avenger by damaging ourselves with combat discipline on kill, as a flat plus 45% crit is huge for Archguns, who lack good crit stats and mods. Equilibrium easily offsets the self-damage. Biting Frost, of course, also buffs Archguns because of its aura-like effect, granting plus 200% crit chance and damage to all sources against frozen enemies. This also helps in reaching 100% crit and adding ever more crit damage since, as I said, Archgun mods suck. Energy isn't an issue because we aren't using a max rank blind rage, have equilibrium, and also dispensary, which doubles as health regen, energy regen, converted energy regen, and the universal ammo. Using primed flow allows us to cast our 2, 4, and if necessary, a second 4 within a single full energy bar. This only needs to be a rank 8 preparation for max energy on spawn, including death and respawn. We also have 220 range, which maximizes the amount of freezing we get per cast. Not the highest, but high enough it's still worth casting as 4. For Fluctus, which hits slower than Larkspur's instant chain beam, you may consider replacing Augur Reach for Augur Secrets if the freeze range feels too high and affects KPM negatively. It's meant to coincide with Cordon's 30-meter suck range. Molt Augmented allows us to reach 167 strength for full strip in a single cast without needing strength shards or Matarai. Your gun slots are optional, as you will not be able to use them while an Archgun is out. The only one of note for utility is Aphentis, because the reload speed, fire rate, and ammo maximum bonuses do actually apply to Archguns when you deploy them with the buff active. The ammo maximum does not really matter since we are net positive ammo economy due to dispensary. Reload and fire rate are nice, but it only lasts 40 seconds and you will never holster your Archgun on this build, so you will not be able to reapply these buffs. Your secondary is either utility or DPS to back up for if your Archgun screws up and goes on cooldown. If utility, bring 2 Augur mods so our Frost can shield gate with Avalanche in a single cast. If for DPS, then you will have to change your Sentinel weapon later. For a DPS example, I brought a Lex Prime Incarnon with these perk trees, and this build. I charge it at the start of mission, keep it in my back pocket if things screw up. Otherwise, there's nothing special going on here. If you want a full breakdown on Lex Prime Incarnon and why it's an absolute monster of a secondary, feel free to check out my video at the top right. I chose my Praedos as my melee today because Archguns nerf your parkour capabilities. The Praedos with these perks grant plus 20% sprint speed and slide and plus 30% parkour velocity even while holstered and not in its Incarnon mode. This makes up at least for you only getting 2 seconds of aim glide no matter what. I built it like this as an option to deal with acolytes too. You can use the two-handed cast animation tech to fix the long-standing issue and restore melee functionality while Archgun is active. Larkspur is a beam, and beams suck against acolytes. Fluctus does not have super high raw damage, so 2x combo force proc / melee does a good job in ripping acolytes apart with heavy attacks. I also brought Dispatch Overdrive, since it only requires a heavy attack to hit and not kill. You can activate this whenever you want, giving you insanely fast strafe speeds even while shooting your Larkspur and Fluctus. Lasting Sting is brought to extend slash procs to 12 seconds. This is extremely effective for dealing with acolytes, letting you walk up, heavy slash with 2x combo, and forget about them as they bleed out while you go back to killing trash fodder. We use Condition Overload because our Archgun will always prime at least 3 status effects on acolytes, since it would need to be able to activate Cordon anyways. Our companion build looks like this. Stock Nautilus with Cordon Manifold Bond. The auto grouping spam is important to improve our KPM, and makes it significantly easier to kill enemies through walls with Fluctus. Fluctus's main niche is shooting through walls, so auto grouping eliminates the spread apart issue enemies can have when you're relying on your map to know where to shoot unseeable enemies. This also makes Primed Animal Instinct extremely important for Fluctus setups, and less so for Larkspur setups. Guardian keeps you alive on top of your double shield gate and Overguard gate. Assault mode and synth set are optional. If you're using a utility pistol with Augur mods, you can use whatever you want as a Sentinel weapon, perhaps a Volklock, so you can equip Tenacious Bond, which also applies to Archguns to grant plus 1.2x crit damage. If you're using a DPS pistol, then bring a Burst Laser, the only pistol Sentinel weapon to equip 2 Augur mods so the Avalanche can restore all shields in one cast. Finally, it's time to look at our 2 Archguns showcased today, Fluctus and Larkspur Prime. Let's look at Fluctus first. The biggest issue Archguns have are crap mods, which our Frost aims to fix. Their one big bonus are elemental mods, which are actually pretty good, of which we use 3, and Cold and Toxin for viral and the brand new Radiation mod from Whispers in the Wall. Fluctus is naturally 70% slash weight, so using 60-60 virals and radiation allows slash to remain relevant in elemental weighting. This meets the 3 elemental requirements to activate Manifold Bond on enemies we kill to spam Cordon. Besides being only 35.2 status chance, remember that Containment Breach pushes us up to 1.9 multi-shot, and we have both infinite terrain and body punch through. Technically, if you don't have the radiation mod, feel free to use Magma Chamber for heat instead, but this could be hard to acquire. Viral is highest weight, because enemies will be fully stripped, benefiting from health, weakness, typing, and also chance to apply viral status. Fluctus also has base 3 seconds reload speed, so the last slot is used for quick reload to cut it in half. I do not use critical focus, because Fluctus has high zoom level, which, while fine for Profit Taker, is not comfortable for running gun normal play. We still reach 88 crit chance with Biting Frost active, rising to 133 after Arcane Avenger applies. Our alternate option, which is loved for the same reasons as Occucore, is Larkspur Prime. This weapon auto-aims for you so long as you aim in the general direction of enemies while also chaining across targets. Easy to use and amazing crunchy sound design too. Besides, the Larkspur is innate radiation, so we do not need to use the new Whispers in the Wall mod. I'm aware that multi-shot double dips on beam weapons, but it only gives 30% and we already shred armor stripped enemies. Instead, we ran Magma Chamber to run a viral heat DPS build. It both has good raw damage and will burn to death anything that survives. Sabbath rounds is run instead of Parallax Scope, as the Larkspur is only base 14% crit chance, whereas Punch Through allows it to hit significantly more enemies on the chaining. With Biting Frost, we reach 42 crit chance, capping out to 87 with Arcane Avenger active. Because this is a beam weapon with continuous DPS, reaching 100% crit is not really needed, and justifying the 8th flex slot for plus 15% more total crit just isn't worth it. And that's it. All you gotta do is just deploy Dispensary regularly and cast Avalanche every 5 seconds or so. Equilibrium will easily keep your health and energy topped up. Burn everything down, armor stripping even Xmas and Acolytes through Overguard and shields. If needed, heavy swing your melee to take out the Acolyte with Force Proc Slash. Check the earlier timestamp for restoring melee functionality while using Archguns. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've been doing with the Whispers in the Wall update. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.